point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 559th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the amazing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
Yeah, in the flesh. Today it's being recorded on the 8th of February. And
that's today.
That's today, it is. And the time that we're doing is from the 1st of February, which was a week ago today, up until yesterday. And before we do anything...
Energy Week.
That's right. Before we do anything else, I want to show people something that I brought in. This is 2 Meyer lemons, which were... I'm going to put them there so that you can point at people.
You told me about them, but I've not seen them.
Well, yeah, they just look like ordinary lemons. They're not really lemons, but they kind of look like lemons. And they're a hybrid of a couple of other things. And the reason I brought them in is because they were just harvested yesterday on Elliott Street. And this year we have a very nice crop of lemons, and these are among the first to be harvested. I think we've got about 30 of them altogether on one tree that's about 4 feet tall. And these trees that we have, the citrus trees, are kept inside during the winter so they don't get hit by cold.
Well, a tree may grow in Berkeley, but citrus fruit grows in Brattleboro.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Anyway, the material that we're talking about all comes from my blog, geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. And you can go there, click on the date. We will tell you what the date these are coming from, I hope. And you can also go to one of the links that are below. There's a file that you should be able to download that has all the pictures and the stories that we're talking about, a synopsis of each one, but a link to the original, so you can go to the original. And
some of these stories, some of these links are pretty well worth following if you got the time.
I absolutely agree. Some of these are really great. So anyway, we are starting off with an item from Solar Quarter.
And a nice big picture of a solar array.
That's what it is. And that is not a solar array that was actually with the article. It's one that I got. I pick up pictures from outside the article and put them up with the article because very often there is no picture with the article, or
if the article and the picture don't agree very well.
Well, actually, I don't like using copyrighted images.
Yeah, right.
Because I could use them, but it might be that somebody who's using my blog would use them wrongly and wind up being in trouble, and I don't want that to happen. Anyway, this article is from Solar Quarter, and Tom, I happen to know that you've got the title.
IEA reports, IPA report reveals 50% surge in global renewable capacity in 2023, bringing global total to nearly 510 gigawatts. And they're going to tell us what the IEA actually stands for, which is amazing. Usually don't.
Yeah, this is from a report by the International Energy Agency. That's the IEA, International Energy Agency, shows that the world added 50% more renewable capacity in 2023 than it did in 2022, bringing the global total to nearly 510 gigawatts. And of the new capacity, 75% was solar PVs.
That doesn't surprise me because the prices of solar panels just keep going down.
They keep going down. That's absolutely right. So Should I go on, Tom? Do you have more to say about that?
No, we might as well move on.
Okay.
Can't dance.
We have a picture here of sea otters.
Looks like otters to me.
It does, doesn't it? And they all look kind of cute, don't they?
They sort of look like teddy bears, don't they?
Sort of. You know, we have had otters in Brattleboro, but they weren't sea otters. They were
Yes, right.
river otters. And
Oh, there's otters floating around here.
there are otters around. Years ago, I was walking down to the co-op, and I saw that there were 2 trails near the whetstone, and it was just otter tracks going along in the snow, and then they got to a certain point and they went straight down into the river, and it wasn't much of a slide for the otters, although they might have liked, you know, going on one of those 2 things sliding down, but clearly they'd been on them for a few times. Anyway, this is an item that came from ABC News, which is the American broadcast company, not the Australian broadcast company.
Well, let me tell you what we're going to talk about.
I think that's a good idea.
Sea otters, once hunted to near extinction, are preventing coastal erosion as their populations grow.
Yeah.
Study finds.
Yeah. A recent discovery that sea otters are Mother Nature's solution to the prevention of coastal erosion. The sea otters eat burrowing crabs that have no other major predators. The crab burrows make coastal land unstable. So
These guys are pretty helpful.
yeah, they're very helpful. The crabs are a kind of well, in nature they're a minor menace. They make holes in the ground, you know, underwater, and the holes destabilize the coast. But it's not a big deal because, you know, a lot of them get eaten by the otters. But the otters were hunted almost to extinction for fur, and now that they are no longer hunted, they are spreading and getting back into the business of eliminating the sea crabs.
So now they're getting to be close to be a nuisance themselves.
No, I don't think so. They're
They
being
eat the crabs.
the what?
They eat the crabs.
They eat the crabs. That's right. So that's that, and we have a picture now of a lineman, a utility worker.
Looks like a lineman to me. It really does.
This is a really good fake, I think, maybe. And that background is all painted. Nah, probably real. Probably real.
I think it's real.
This is
Looks
from
pretty real to me.
yeah. This is from Clean Technica.
Well, they tell us that he is a utility worker. You couldn't fool me.
Yeah. What do you got for
Let me
title?
tell you what they're going to tell us about.
Okay.
Renewed U.S. national movement to convert private utilities into public utilities.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, a renewed U.S. movement is afoot to replace corporate utilities with public, citizen-owned utilities. There have been energy cooperatives in the Midwest for nearly a century and a half. The American Public Power Association gives support to public power companies. Now, the American Public Power Association is interesting because is particularly interesting to me because I use photographs that they have produced often. They have posted these photos at a site called unsplash.com. I have no idea why it is unsplash.com. UNSPLASH.
Yeah, I see that every day.
Yeah, and it's you know, when I need a picture, it's really about the first place I go to, although I very often go to Wikimedia Commons. These are sites where you can get free or basically free photographs that you can use. And so the American Public Power Association posts a lot of material at that, and you can get all kinds of pictures of generating equipment, which would mean wind power, solar power, whatever, batteries for utility work, utility scale, wiring, and so forth, transmission.
Well, the utilities being private is a conflict of interest almost.
What's that?
Private. Having
Private.
these utilities private is almost a conflict of interest.
Well, I think there are problems with private, you know, this was something that we talked about, I can remember, possibly in second grade, third grade. The teachers that I had were remarkable people, and in those days, and they had I remember my fourth grade teacher could tell us detailed stories about people she knew who were among the original settlers in the town that I was in. So, you know, I had a real interesting connection with the idea of, you know, coming in on a covered wagon and setting up shop. But
let me tell you something funny about public power or citizen-owned utilities. It's over Lake George.
Yeah.
The New York State Municipal Electric power companies, of which there are about 20, 25, was having a convention.
Yes.
And the two keynote speakers were the governor of Vermont.
Yes.
Who was the first Democratic governor ever elected. And in New York, to balance him off, they had Nelson Rockefeller, who was governor of New York at the time.
Yeah.
And Rockefeller came up with an entourage. Four motorcycle cops in the front, 3 stretched limousines, and another 4 motorcycles. And the Vermont Public Power guy came in riding alone in the front seat of a state police car.
There you go. Yeah. Well, the thing I was going to tell you, Tom, was this thing about the teachers, and one of the teachers was talking about the bad old days when power companies were in competition, and some of them would set up poles, and other ones would set up poles next to them, and they would cut each other's lines and things like that.
I have heard of that. Matter of fact, there's one city over in Ohio that's got 2 utilities running through it.
Oh, dear. Okay.
I mean, one serves as commercial customers, the other one serves the people.
Oh, no. That's awful.
Really? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, we have to go on to Friday, February 2nd, if you don't mind.
That's a good guess.
Okay, let's do it.
A picture of an Excel Energy solar system.
Yes, that's right. And clearly it's being built here. And the article is from PV Tech.
And it says, and I quote, Excel Energy to build 3.6 gigawatts of renewable capacity and 600 megawatts of storage in Minnesota.
Right. Utility Xcel Energy announced plans to decarbonize its operations in the Midwest. The plans involve the construction of 3.6 gigawatts of new renewable power generating capacity and 600 megawatts of new battery energy storage system facilities.
This is a portent of things to come.
I think it is, yes. But I do think that in the future we'll see quite possibly larger amounts of storage go in.
Well, it's useful. I mean, the storage it used to be like very large utilities. Now it's going to be small distributed utilities and storage outfits.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the whole business of storage is changing very rapidly. I think we should probably move on. Tom, we have an item here from the BBC, and we have a picture of something that looks like something I've never seen before, but it is in fact rather like
Well, the article tells us what it is.
Yeah, that's right.
And I will read the title.
Yeah.
Should British homes be built using straw?
Yes. This year's straw from Lithuania will envelop a building in a quiet town in West Yorkshire. The panels will be supplied by a Slovakian firm, Eco Kokon. That's a weird name, Eco Kokon. Each timber-framed panel is about 400 millimeters thick.
That's about 16 inches.
Thank you. and contains a mass of chopped straw. They help meet a rising demand for insulation and sustainability.
Well, I imagine these things are very, very high, have a very high insulation level.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a type of structure called a straw bale construction, where a house is made of pieces that are put together like bricks, but they're really big.
Made out of straw.
They are bales of straw, and they put up bales of straw, and then they cover that with basically mud.
Stucco.
It's what?
Stucco.
Stucco. Yeah, that's basically mud, and that makes a nice cozy house if you have it built right. And so
They don't cost as much as wood either.
they don't cost as much as wood, and if you know how to do it, you can do it yourself. Of course,
Yeah.
that's it might be a little bit different from. It might be a little bit difficult to get inspected by a building inspector in some parts of the world. So that's where we have that. I think we should go on to the next item, which is we have a picture of smog in Los Angeles, and the article is from Clean Technica.
Tells it to me that it's smog in Los Angeles.
What's that?
It's smog in Los Angeles.
That's what it looks like. I'll tell you, that's not terrible smog. Do you remember when there was a bunch of people, like thousands of people died in London because of air pollution?
No, I don't remember that.
It was I don't remember. I don't remember what year it was. It might have been 1947, in which case I was probably 1 year old. But it might have been later than that, and I do remember people talking about large numbers of people, like in the thousands, in London dying because of air pollution.
Wow.
And they had to do something about that. It was because they were burning. People were heating their homes with coal, and
Yeah.
They had fireplaces, and they would burn coal in the fireplaces. Anyway, this is Clean Technica, and that is not what I would call terrible smog, but it is bad.
But it's smog.
Yes, it is. What do you got for title?
Carbon dioxide, radioisotopes, the Keeling curve, and the greatest cover-up in history.
Yeah. 70 years ago, that is 70 years ago, Los Angeles had an air pollution problem that led to the word smog being coined. Petroleum and automotive companies came to realize that pollution is a problem, and they created a massive cover-up to protect their interests.
They wouldn't do that.
No, they wouldn't do that. Well, they apparently did do it, and they've been working on trying to prevent people from knowing what they're doing. Knowing what the damages that they're doing. Thousands of people die every year in the United States because we've got polluted air, and we don't need polluted air. We can drive around just like we have in gasoline and diesel powered cars, but we can do it in electric cars and not have all that air pollution. And I go back to this thing where the American Lung Association of California, it's the California branch, did a study of a bunch of states, including Vermont, and they tried to figure out what the cost was of air pollution in these states, and the figure that they came to for Vermont, when you do the calculations, it comes down to way over $400 per person per year. So
You wouldn't think about that in a state like Vermont.
No, you wouldn't. But Vermont's air is much more polluted than the air of some other states. And part of that is because our air is, before it comes to us, it goes over New York and Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan and, so forth. And so we have air that is bringing with it air pollution from other states.
Its own pollution with it.
Yeah, and then we've got our cars. We have a lot of pollution from our cars. So, People are dying because of air pollution in Vermont, and it's unfortunate. And it's something that we should deal with, and this particular story, among other things, deals with that, smog. So.
Now we got a nice picture coming up of a wind farm.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it is. How did you know?
I'm good at things like that.
Are you? Well,
This came from the Cowboy State Daily.
That's right. That is what it is. And those wind turbines are in Wyoming, which is the cowboy state. What do you have for title?
$230 million wind farm near Glen Rock, Wyoming, could bring 200 jobs and power 44,000 homes. Now, that's a lot.
That's a lot. AES Corporation, a Virginia-based energy behemoth, shedding coal-fired plants as part of a years-long restructuring effort to focus on renewables, unveiled plans to build a $230 million wind farm near just south of Glen Rock, Wyoming. It will have a capacity of 150 megawatts. So that's what that is doing. And that will clean up.
That's really not very big.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
That's not really very big.
It's not huge, compared to other wind farms that we've seen coming along. It's actually not all that big, but it is somewhat big. Yeah. Okay, now we have a picture of an Aptera, which is a very weird looking car.
Yeah, it's a funny looking little thing, isn't
it? And this is from Clean Technica.
The solar electric car that looks like an airplane is almost ready for takeoff.
Yeah, the Aptera.
It is.
What?
It looks like it's almost ready for takeoff.
Yeah, it does. The Aptera has been a long time coming. It was launched in 2006, only to hit a wall in 2011. A relaunch in 2020 got the gears in motion again, and now the long-awaited futuristic solar-powered three-wheeled electric car is almost ready to hit the road. And that car is going to be coming in different configurations. The cheapest that I have read, and the numbers that I have are a little bit old, so it may be that this isn't exactly correct, but I think about a year ago I read that car that's in its cheapest would be $27,500, and it would have a range of 250 miles. But in the most...
That doesn't sound too hot.
No. In the range of... in the high range, it's $47,500, and it has a range of 1,000 miles, which is by far...
A little bit better.
Yeah, it's by far the longest range of any car that would be out. And in that most expensive format, the car is the car has solar cells built into the roof. And in Vermont, according to the calculations that I did on their website, on an average day, the car would gain about 27 miles of range. So this is a car which, if you're not driving a lot, if you're just commuting to a job that's not all that far away and going to the store and whatnot, you could power it up, in January and still have charge left from that first powering, and the sun shining on it a year later.
It's not costing you much for fuel.
Nothing, as a matter of fact. It could cost nothing for fuel. And by the way, that car is a lot bigger than it looks.
It is, huh?
Yeah, it is. It has
looks small.
It has two front seats, and there is room behind that for possibly a third person or possibly a big dog, and the trunk area has a lot of space in it. So it's not trivial. It's a real vehicle, and there you go. So I'm
Another couple of years, all the cars are going to look like that.
Yeah. Okay, we are up to a new article from Clean Technica, and the picture here is just a picture of an EV charging.
That's what it is.
What do you have for a title?
The U.S. added 1.2 million electric vehicles to the grid last year, and electricity use went down.
Yes, that's an interesting fact, I think. 2023 set another record for EV sales in the United States. About 1.2 million vehicles, or 7.6% of all sales. And by the way, that's a very low figure compared to other industrialized countries in the world, were electric, according to Kelley Blue Book. Nevertheless, the data on electricity use through November 2023 showed that it was down by 1.1%. So the fact that we're having more EVs does not mean that we're using more electricity.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, that's interesting.
There are other things at work there, but that's what it is. We're up to Sunday, February 4th, and we have a picture here of a tea plantation.
The picture of a tea garden, isn't it?
Yes, it is, a tea garden. There was a musician once named Jack Teagarden.
I'll take your word for it.
He played trombone.
Uh-huh.
And
I do remember the name.
yeah, Louis Armstrong was the grand marshal of a march in New Orleans, and after the march, he was supposed to play at the Civic Center or something like that, and he was going to play with Jack Teagarden, and the town fathers, whatever they were, you know, their titles, said he couldn't do that because Jack Teagarden was white, and they did not want an integrated band playing.
Wow.
And Louis Armstrong left New Orleans, which was his original home, and never returned.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, Louis Armstrong was an interesting man. He had been helped quite a lot as a child by a Jewish family, and he wore a Star of David his whole life.
Interesting.
Isn't it? Okay, this is from Solar Quarter. What do you got for a title?
Tata Power, Renewable Energy Limited, illuminates Asia's largest tea estate with innovative solar technology.
Right. Tata Power and Renewable Energy Limited commissioned a 1,040 kilowatt bifacial solar system in Chiang Mai, at Chiang Mai tea estate, Asia's largest tea estate. This project is the first deployment of on-ground bifacial modules in eastern India. So bifacial modules pick up light that they generate from both sides. So they're very often put up vertically facing east and west, so their axis is north and south.
So they're getting power all day long.
Yeah, they generate more power than the kind of regular power places during the morning and the afternoon. Not quite as much at noon. So that's that, I guess. Okay, our next picture is a Google data center at Eemshaven in the Netherlands. Let me put that up. There we go. And this is from a publication called Inceptive Mind. I don't recall ever using that before.
Google signs its largest offshore wind power agreements to date.
Yeah, Google has signed power purchase agreements with Crosswind and Ecovenda consortia, both ventures of energy companies Shell and Eneco. This announcement is in line with the goal of achieving net zero emissions across all its operations and value chains by 2030.
That's coming up soon.
Yeah, and Google is very clearly rather serious about this.
They seem to be pretty progressive.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, dance.
Okay, here is something that's a little closer to home. It's in Nevada.
A little desert in Nevada.
Which is closer to us than the Netherlands. Okay, this is from Clean Technica.
Nevada Supreme Court ruling says that surface water and groundwater are one and the same. Wow.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. The Nevada Supreme Court has ruled that in a unanimous decision that the state may restrict new groundwater pumping if it will impact other users and wildlife. The decision will change how the state manages its groundwater. Now, here we've got a problem in the West because because there's too much demand, and so people are pumping groundwater, and
Wells
unfortunately,
are going dry.
yeah, the wells are going dry in some places because the groundwater is not being replenished as fast as as it's being emptied, and that's a serious problem.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, we're up to Monday, February 5th,
All day.
all day. Whoops, what do we got here? There we go. We have a picture of a car that has been clobbered by a falling tree. And
Yeah, as they call it, storm damage. That car's kind of damaged, isn't it?
I think it probably is, yeah. This is from Clean Technica.
Average cost of car insurance up more than 20% in the last year.
Yeah, Yahoo Finance reports that car insurance cost 20.3% more in December than they were in a year earlier, with the average annual premium costing $2,542, according to Bankrate. Part of that increase is due to inflation, but part of it is due to weather brought by climate change. So, that tree.
Implies that there's more damage to cars due to weather.
Exactly, and the insurance companies have to pay out more, and it's not just cars; it's houses and
Yeah.
businesses and all kinds of things. So the cost of insurance is going up because the cost of damage is going up with climate change. Saw a very interesting thing in the last week, by the way, explaining how we know. Of course, we've known for a while, just based on our own observations, that the climate is changing. It's not what it was 50 years ago. But also, there was a very nice explanation that I saw of how we know that this climate change is caused by human action. And the stuff that I saw convinced me, yeah, it's true. I think I'll write an article about that, put it up someplace, and have it online next time. Okay, we have a tangerine tree. This is an interesting article.
Kumquat.
It looks like a kumquat. That's a massive kumquat. This is from the Japan Times. What do you have for a title?
How fruit farmers in Tohoku area.
It's area. There's an A missing.
Again.
Yeah.
How fruit farmers in
Tohoku
are coping with climate change.
Yes, the area of Yamamoto and Watari in southern part of Miyagi Prefecture is known for its relatively warm climate, but the unusual sight of tangerines, which are vulnerable to cold, coexisting with apples, which are vulnerable to heat, may be a symbol of rapid global warming. And what's happened here in this article is that the farmers who had been orchard farmers who grew apples for a long time have orchards of apples, but with climate change they've actually got to a point where it starts to make sense to replace the older trees with trees that require warmer weather or live in warmer climates. And so they're putting in these tangerines, and that appears to be something that might work for them.
Well, you want to know you're doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and I've studied that a bit, and there actually are types of citrus trees, or I don't know that they're actually, they're clearly closely related. There's a thing called a hardy orange, and I think you could plant those in Brattleboro now and have them survive. I don't know that they would work, but I think they would probably work in Brattleboro. And the one thing about them is they're not the oranges that you're accustomed to eating. They have a lot of seeds and not a whole lot of pulp. And the other thing is they have vicious thorns. I'm talking about thorns that might be 2 inches long and are stiff and sharp. And I've read that
Wow.
if you build a hedge out of these things, the deer will not try to break through.
Not more than once, anyhow.
What?
Not more than once, anyhow.
Yeah, not more than once. Yeah, but they have been planted in. There was a college where they were planted in Oklahoma, and many years ago they were planted there, and they were said to be student-proof. Okay.
I don't think there's any such thing, but
As student-proof?
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Let's take a look at this fire whirl in Colorado. This article is from Clean Technica.
Isn't that an interesting thing? That's looks sort of like a.
It looks
I'm trying to think of the word.
It looks like a fire tornado.
Tornado. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah. And I noticed that there's a truck or something down near the bottom of that, and
Yeah, there is. It's tiny, isn't it?
it looks pretty small. But in order for it to be there, I think that whoever had that truck would have driven away long ago if that were less than maybe 50, 100 yards away. So that tornado, that fire whirl, as it's called, is pretty far away.
Looks like an upside down tornado.
Sort of. It gets kind of narrower as it goes up. What do you have for title?
Sandia uses electric grid analytics to combat wildfire risks and aid post-wildfire recovery.
Yeah, I haven't really put this up for people to see. I'm sorry about that. Sandia National Labs Wildfire Grid Resilience Program aims to determine and mitigate risk of ignition, reduce wildfire spread, and to decrease consequences of major wildfires through new tools and better informed decision making. So basically, Sandia is trying to do something about these fires that have been springing up. And by the way, terrible fires have been around for a very long time. I mean, if you want to read something that is truly frightening that deals with fires, the Peshtigo fire is, you can look it up in Wikipedia or whatnot. It was unbelievable. And it happened the same day as the Chicago fire. I forget the date of that, but it was the same day. And there were entire villages completely wiped out by the Peshtigo fire. And the Peshtigo fire apparently jumped Green Bay, which meant that the fire jumped across at least 10 miles of water to start up again.
I'm gonna say Green Bay. That's pretty big.
It's pretty big, but there was evidence of how far it could jump in the form of a sign that had been picked up and scorched, but it had gone up high enough apparently that there wasn't enough enough oxygen in the air to keep it burning, and then it fell, and it fell on a location that was 7 or 8 miles from where it got picked up. So, you know, in the kinds of terrible winds that you can get around some of these things, things do get moved quite a long ways, and the distances that can be traveled by fire embers and reigniting fires, and it was extremely dry in the Midwest at that particular time, which is part of the reason why Chicago had that terrible fire, which burned, I think, about a quarter of it down. There were areas in Chicago that were miles from the fire and never experienced it, but nevertheless, there it is. Okay, our next item is a little bit more comfortable for me than a fire, and this solar installation, and the article is from PV Magazine USA.
Well, they covered a whole roof with PV panels. It makes sense.
I guess. What do you got for a title?
Increasing alternative energy standards would bring billions in investment to Pennsylvania.
Yeah. The governor of Pennsylvania pledged 30% renewable energy by 2030. 3 business groups crunched the numbers and found that if that happens, More than $13.1 billion could be invested in Pennsylvania over the next 7 years. And that's an important...
A lot of investment.
That's a lot of investment. That means a lot of people get employed. You know,
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Okay, I'm going to go on.
Yes.
And we have a picture here of a sign that says no planet B. There is no planet B, right? Article from Clean Technica.
Rising temperatures and rising authoritarianism, trends that are intertwined.
Yes, this is kind of I don't know, it's a difficult thing for me to read. As Earth's annual average temperatures push against the 1.5 degrees C limit, social scientists warn that we may move into a dangerous new era in human history. Research shows that increasing climate shocks could trigger unrest and authoritarian backlashes. And I want to tell everybody, this 1.5 degrees Celsius, the world's average temperature for last year was a little bit more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above the limit, that limit. So they were saying that we might hit it in 2030. We've already hit it.
Already hit it.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that I will say about that is there were a number of things that contributed to the world being hot, one of which was climate change, and one of which was the oceans were hot, which comes with climate change. But the third thing is El Nino. And the El Nino really exacerbated the problem. And we can see now that the El Nino is starting to go away. So it might be that 2024 will be a little bit cooler than 2023. It might not. But the expectation is...
You gotta stop burning things, guys.
Yeah, we have to stop burning things. That is correct. And authoritarian regimes are not going to help us. So let's go on, Tom. This is a nice picture of a Tesla Model Y. What do you think?
Looks nice to me.
It looks great to me.
Looks like it's been hit.
Been hit? Where?
In the tail.
I think that's a reflection, Tom.
Might be.
Yeah. This is from Clean Technica, and you have a title.
World EV sales report. Tesla Model Y is the best-selling model in the world.
Yes. The last months of 2023 brought a record fest for world plug-in vehicle sales, with 3 months out of the last 4 setting new sales records. December had over 1,550,000 registrations. That's worldwide, I believe. The overall market, in the overall market, the Tesla Model Y was the global best seller. And I would point out the United States is way behind on this. You know, we're talking about sales of electric vehicles that are less than 10%. In Norway, sales of electric vehicles are above 90%.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that's kind of weird. Norway gets almost 100% of its energy from renewable resources. It uses, it is increasing the use of electric cars very quickly, and it's one of the world's biggest producers of petroleum. And that petroleum is coming from the North Sea, where, you know, the North Sea.
Yep, it's underwater petroleum.
Yeah. Okay, we're up to Wednesday, February 15th, a little bit ahead of schedule here. And we have an item that we have a picture of a wind farm.
Looks like a wind farm to me.
It
looks
does,
like a
doesn't it?
big wind farm.
Yeah, it's a pretty big wind farm. And those turbines look like they're close together. They're not. Those things are very far apart. That thing that looks like a footpath going to the one that is in the lowest left position is probably a road.
I was just going to say it's a road, yeah.
And I think a vehicle on that would look really tiny. Those things are big. Euronews produced this particular article, and you have a title for it too, I'll bet you.
Unprecedented collapse in the EU coal and gas electricity generation last year.
Yeah, this is interesting. According to a report by Ember, now Ember is a think tank, and it spends a lot of time dealing with fossil fuels and renewables and stuff like that. According to a report by Ember, more of Europe's electricity came from wind power than from fossil gas, natural gas, for the first time last year. So wind power is producing more electricity for Europe than natural gas is. Wind and solar produced a record 27% of the bloc's electricity in 2023. Coal and gas took corresponding nosedives. And they're not kidding about that. Coal, I think coal was like 12%, which is amazing when you consider.
It's expensive to produce.
It's expensive to produce. You know, when you and I were kids, coal was where the electricity came from.
Oh, yeah.
There was no dispute about this. That's what it was. And so things.
Well, I can remember 2 houses we lived in that were fueled by coal.
Yeah, I can remember a house that we lived in that was fueled by coal. And then we went to another house, and I don't remember how that was fueled, but it was certainly not coal. And then we moved to another house that was old. That third house was in Illinois, and it was according to the old teacher, you know, who knew everything about history in that area. That house was actually a stop on the Underground Railroad. And my brother and I would go down into the basement and trying to figure out where the railroad was. But there was in the basement a room that was kind of walled off with a big open door. There was no door to close there. It was just, you know, there was a wall. And apparently a coal delivery truck would drive onto the lawn and dump coal through a basement window, and the coal would be shoveled into a coal furnace that was down there. And I don't know how the coal was vented. The house.
Chimneys.
Huh?
Just chimneys.
Well, it would have been chimneys, but I'm just trying to think. There were a lot of fireplaces in that house. I think there were probably. I know that there were 2 rooms on the first floor that had fireplace. One of them was a living room, and the other one was a library. We had a library. My parents, when they could, always had a library. And the upstairs, I know that there were at least two fireplaces on the upstairs, but I don't remember any other flue. And so if there was coal burning downstairs, there was more removed than just the furnace. There was something else. I don't know how that all worked. That was an interesting house. Okay, should we go on?
I think you should.
Okay. Our next picture is kind of weird. I've got it up so people can see it. This is a picture of an atmosphere.
There it is. There's the U.S.
Yes, that's right. The United States is in the upper right-hand corner, kind of tilted on an axis.
Yep.
And if you follow that trail, you'll see there's a line that says 15 north that curves from right to left, and just above that line, at a position that I would say is probably 20 north or something like that, a little right, a little to the left of center, you can actually see the Hawaiian Island chain.
I was just going to say you can see Hawaii.
That's right. And this picture is a picture of an atmospheric river. It's a picture of the moisture coming off the Pacific Ocean, and it is moving like a river, headlong, and it goes, in this particular case, It goes into California, south of San Francisco, certainly. I don't know do you know what cities are in that part of California, about halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles? I don't.
Halfway between them is not much.
Yeah, there's not much. Anyway, this particular item is from the BBC.
What is the Pineapple Express, and why has it drenched California?
Yeah. Atmospheric rivers are long, narrow bands of rain that hit the west coast of the United States and Canada endwise, bringing lots of rain. So that river, that atmospheric river that you can see there, which is marked in that red thing,
It is a river.
it just keeps going, and so the rain just keeps on falling. And it'll go way inland there, too. You can bet your bottom dollar in this picture that western Kansas and Oklahoma and southeastern Colorado and northeastern New Mexico are just getting drenched here because of the moisture there. But the coast of California is being hit by a lot of rain. And that can go on for days. And so they can have inches of rain over the course of days in areas that in some cases are suffering from drought. And that's not good for retaining the soil. Atmospheric rivers are long, narrow bands of rain that hit the west coast endwise, bringing lots of rain. If one starts near Hawaii, which this one has done, it is called the Pineapple Express. Studies from NOAA suggest that they will bring more rain with climate change. And the reasons behind that are really pretty simple and pretty obvious. The fact is that, as we've said here many times, warmer air will hold more moisture. Warmer water evaporates faster.
Yep.
And that warm air is going to go someplace and get cooled off. And when it is, that some of that moisture is just going to get dumped.
I was just going to say, it's going to dump this rain.
That's right. It's going to be rain. And, that is a problem. So we're up to our last item.
Nice looking car, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a Ford Model T.
That's an affordable Ford.
It's an affordable Ford. And this was the thing that really set Ford apart as an auto manufacturer when it came out, because what Henry Ford did was he figured out a way to manufacture these cars in an assembly line instead of one by one. And the result of that was that he could reduce the amount of time a man would work every week, increase his wages so he was making more money in the week even so, and make cars that were far cheaper in the process. And this thing was the Tin Lizzie. And this item is from Clean Technica. So what do you have for title?
Ford. Jesus, not so secret affordable EV again.
Yeah, this was kind of fun to read. Word leaked out that the Ford Motor Company has assigned a secret task force to develop an affordable EV, electric vehicle, aimed at competing with the lowest cost lineup of Tesla and various Chinese automakers. It is pretty much the same secret that Clean Technica's Jennifer Sensiba took note of in May of 2022. This is not much of a secret, I would say.
I don't think.
But there it is. Now, I want to point out that there was a lot of news today that couldn't get into this show because we don't use news immediately the same day it appears. We have to kind of move it around and have it ready. One of the things was this business of climate change, the temperatures in the world during 2023 being a little bit more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above what they had been in the past. And that is a worrying trend. There were a lot of other things that came out in the news, and we will have material about all of that when in our next show. We will be talking about that 1.5 degrees Celsius. We've talked about it this time, and we will talk about it next time. There are.
I'm looking at that car there, though. That was sufficient.
That was sufficient to get people around, yeah.
Sure.
When that car was built, there were cars that were coming off the assembly line that were, the engine parts were fitted badly enough that they smoked when they were new.
Ah.
I don't know that Ford vehicles did that, but I remember seeing pictures of assembly lines that had oil burning cars coming off the assembly line and looking really bad. And of course, these things were major polluters. They would be kind of unacceptable today, and they had very small engines compared to cars that are made today. There was no attempt to make them efficient, and there was no serious attempt to make them clean. And there was a car at that time, the time that car was produced, the Ford Model T, which was the Baker Electric, and it was an electric vehicle. But of course...
Oh, yeah, I don't know anything about that one.
You don't think about it much. I wrote an article a couple of years ago for Clean Technica suggesting that people don't really need huge amounts of range, and they don't need cars that are super fast. And maybe the thing to do would be to do a reprise of the Baker Electric, and people could drive around in cars like this. Just think about that car. That thing is almost tall enough for a person to stand up in. In the case of a short woman, she probably could stand up inside that car. And
it certainly was roomy inside.
Oh, yeah. And the Baker Electric was basically the same kind of thing. There it was. Okay, we are at the end of our tether, as they say, and I'm going to put up our last slide, which is wishing everybody that they have a spectacularly quiet week. It is so restful to have a quiet week, but if you're going to do it, make it spectacularly quiet. I'm not sure how that's possible. And yes, I have to admit, I am the person who makes these things up. Anyway.
The news is more good than it is bad.
Yeah. I am waving goodbye. Tom, are you waving goodbye?
I'm waving goodbye.
Is your cat waving goodbye?
I don't know. I can't see the cat.
Oh, your cat is always missing whenever we do the show. I don't get it.
He's taking a nap somewhere.
Yeah, he probably is. Anyway, goodbye to everybody. And what do you say, Tom? You all come back?
You all come back and see us now, you hear?
Yeah.